Okay, give me a bottle of Joe. So, I'm going to talk for a minute about stances. Okay? We only have a couple stances in this style. You've got two or a couple in Aikido, we've got a few in Karate, but every art has stances. Some people put a lot of pressure about stances, about the form of those stances. This is the position you're in, you are in this shape, you're in this position. And that's important, especially initially, to know what that position is. But what's not often talked about is why you're in that position and why it's relevant. And why do we have stances? Because how often, more often than not, the stances that you're using are not stances that you feel like you'd actually fight in. Almost always, right? Unless you're in a fighting stance, okay? Which is usually personal. The fighting stance itself is usually something that's unique to you because it's how you fight, not somebody's prescribed fighting stance. So talking about stances, stances are still important, and kind of break them into a couple categories. Okay? Because the name of the stance may change from art to art, but there's only so many ways to stand. Okay? So you have, and the reason I have this is to show center of gravity. So just to go through a couple real quick, if I'm in a forward stance or even a forma, okay, then my center is here. A little bit past probably center from foot to foot. Because of this knee bend, instead of being centered, it's a little bit forward of center. If I'm back, then my center is back. Okay. If I'm back here, then it's way back. And this coincides with your weight distribution. You know, they say 90-10. Okay, well that gives you a good example. I'm about 90% back here. Okay, if I'm centered, I'm centered. Okay, 50-50, 70-30, right? Okay, so that's an idea of where my weight is and where my center is. Where that becomes important is how I use it. So if we're fighting, I've got a couple things that are important about stances. I need mobility, I need stability, and I need balance. Okay? Usually it's kind of choose two. It's not always you're getting, and usually the one that stays is balance. I need balance and mobility, or balance and stability, but I'm not usually having both. So in this position, if we're fighting, then we're usually really short and fairly balanced, right? I'm fairly weighted in the center. And the reason for that is mobility. I need to be able to switch. I need to be able to move this way, okay? And move quickly. And I need to be able to change directions quickly. If I've got weight one particular direction, it's hard to move back to the other direction. Okay. Now, you've got these stances back here. This is a lot harder to do anything forward, okay? Even kicking is not great from this place, okay? Where this is great is setting my weight down, and typically more so being in control of his weight, okay? Because I'm taking my weight, he grabs my wrist, and I can sit here and do this all I want, but if I set this down and come here, then I take all of my weight into him, okay? I can put two together in that case, where this forward stance is really good if he wants to push into me, okay? Then I've got the ability to push back into here. So when I'm in these forward stances, this is for dealing with force coming in this direction. Okay. Against. Obviously force coming in this direction, this way is with. I can put them together and then I can pull and put this in here. Okay. Now, note that function of that stance and dropping this back here does not give me a lot of all of this. What it does give me is control of where he is. And that's useful. More often than not, stances are used briefly. Okay? They serve a function in delivering a technique that you're doing. They're not how you're moving, they're not how you're fighting, there in how you're delivering the action that you're doing. So when he grabs and I come here, it's so that I can move him. Now I can switch to something else. And I'm not going to stay in that stance, okay? When I'm in this forward stance, I can use this for delivering a punch because it is tied to here so that I can't be pushed. If he can't push me this way, then when I punch him this way, none of the force of the punch can go this way. It all goes this way. Okay, so there is delivery in that. Same thing for throwing this way. I put my weight behind him and manipulate his center behind him. Okay? Now, people say, well, you know, I see kicks from here. Truth is, you never kick out of this stance. So, if you're Funker Tactical, that'd be like the title of your video, to be all controversial and say, oh, what? I have to watch this video and see what horseshit this guy's talking
From
about.
stances is dumb.
But the truth is, when you're in these stances, the reason for this is front leg mobility. Okay? I kick here. I need to be able to move this quickly. He kicks, and I've got blocks in here, so I can move this because I've taken the weight off of this and given it mobility. I've taken away the mobility of this leg. Okay? Now I can shift from stances. I can be from here to back into different stances. But the truth is, if I'm going to throw a kick from front stance, I'm always going to end up in this stance first. So the kick actually comes out of this stance. Even if I throw off the front leg, he comes in. What stance am I in, right? I've switched back to a 100-0. So in that position, I've changed this here. So you guys starting to see where this ties in and why these things are important? Not because, well, Guru said I stand this way, but because it serves a function in what you're doing. When I stand in here, that is to either not be moved or to move someone else. Okay? If he goes to move me and I can get in this place, this is better. But I can go here. Even if I start to fall, okay, I lose my balance, I can drop here to gain my balance back. Okay? If I'm in here, I can move into this space. But this is also the same space I use for this. Okay? So I use this rooting of my own body to move his body. Okay? On this axis. So when I rooted this way, I used this axis. When I rooted this way, I'm using this axis. I can either use that to drop him down or lift him up. But I have to root to become stable enough to deal with that, especially because I'm not likely using this on somebody my weight or less. I'm usually using it on somebody bigger than me, which means I need the stability of the ground around me to do something about it. Okay. Even in here, he grabs this wrist, and I come in here. Again, this, come back up, moved him. Okay, so briefly, weight came back here. Then I needed him to go down, pressure into this. So I came here. So there were two stances in play in this position. Okay, one to move this way and one to move this way. That's really all I'm going to go into on this today. It's just I wanted to open your eyes to the function of stances and why they work and why you will actually use them, so that you can start to piece together when you're working a drill or working a technique. Where should my feet be? What should they be in? Well, what am I trying to do is the real question. Am I doing the right thing? If I need to hit him really hard, then I'm not going to do it here, because this is not hard. But this is, right? If I need to throw a kick, well, then I'm not going to do it here, because I can't do it. I'm going to fall down. Okay? If I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be fighting, then he's going to clock me right through the middle. Okay? So just know the role of what your body is doing and how it manipulates his body. So your stance manipulates your own body, and it is used to manipulate someone else's body, and you combine those two things to create technique. And that's it. That's stances in a nutshell. Yeah.
Stances are also directional, yes. You were talking about backwards, forwards, you know, where your weight is depending on that.
Right.
Side to side.
Exactly. Exactly. What I'm doing, so if I need to move your weight one particular direction, it's like if I stand back here. This is great because I'm keeping you over here. Okay? And I'm noting that you're going to come in this way. Now I can move, you come in, and I can move off to this. here. But, so I'm not in a particular stance right now, especially not a very technical stance. This back foot's not pointed exactly this one way or this other way, but what stance am I in? What is the role of the stance that I'm in right now?
Gaining
Balance. Yeah, getting to another stance.
Where's my weight?
It's 60-40.
If not,
And most.
if not further, because it's harder to see because my feet are closer together. But I would say 70-30 to 80-20. My weight is actually on this back leg, so when he comes in, I have this here. I've taken my weight off of that. Because I'm not like this, it's hard to tell where my weight is. But when I moved that way, I didn't just move that way and then sit back out into this. I moved that way here, which left this open. Throw this here, right? So the smaller it is, the harder it's gonna see where weight is. Which is an advantage for you, it's harder for them to see where their weight is. But it's also harder for you to know where your weight is. So you gotta practice it and focus. Where's my weight? You gotta try lifting, all right. That's definitely forward. Okay, that's definitely pretty back. Okay, that, I floated a little longer, so I'm probably fairly middle. Okay, on forward, definitely forward, right? And so it's harder for me to tell. The closer my feet are together, the harder it is for me to tell where my own weight is. Because I've been standing for most of my life. So I'm just used to standing. So as martial artists, we've got to take it further and understand where we've put our weight. So that, yes, I'm standing up, but if I'm going to apply how I'm standing, I need to understand how I'm standing. Okay? And direction is definitely important. Where I'm at is important. But no matter what, it comes down to what I'm doing. If I need to get away from him, then I move back. Okay? And note, even in this stance, I was back. So this would be a non-traditional stance, because this is not a place I want to be. But it's an option, because it keeps this close enough to reach. It's not great. If he comes in any closer, I'm in trouble. But if he comes in any closer, I can turn this. Okay? If I really want this, I can turn this. Okay? But everything that I do to him comes down to where I've put this. Okay.
Not like readjusting and as far as triangle footwork, you know, you said, I'm just moving here off of that triangle and resetting to realign, yes.
Maybe. Maybe. So if you're here, I can choose, when I come this way, to realign so that I've got these. But I can also come through here where I don't have this, but I've got this, and I can use these other things. Okay? So it depends on what I want to do. If I want to attack your center, then I redirect to face your center. If I want to attack your body, maybe, I can hit your center in through here, but I'm attacking it from this direction, rather than this direction. But I can do both. You can come in and I can go, bop, bop. And now I've hit it this way, hit it this way. Sometimes that's important. You step through this arm, I come through here, okay? When I'm in this position, maybe I come through and kick this leg, okay? But that didn't necessarily do a lot, right? Okay, so sometimes I need two directions at once. So I come in here, kick this leg, and as soon as that leg goes down, I kick this way. Okay? Because I've redirected one way, I forced him to do one thing, and then I had to redirect to take advantage of the new position he was in. Because going that way, continuing, gave him the opportunity to keep dragging his leg and saving himself, or doing something different. But switching and going the other way, while he was in a position of recovery, allowed me to take him down. Okay? So the next thing is, all right, well, I see all these things. I see this, and my foot's bent, my foot's not bent, all of this. My foot is forward. A good safe bet is my foot is forward in some fashion if I want both sides of my body engaged. If I don't have this, then one of these is longer and one of these is shorter. And so either I have to rotate, or I come centered so I can hit with both quicker, and I can still use hip motion to add power. But anytime I want to engage both, because maybe he comes in and hits, and I want to keep this here. I don't want to come back here and then go, ah. Or I don't want to be in here and not have this where I need it. When I'm back this way, this is bad for my knee, if I need to go down, or if he makes me go down, which is a real option. But I'm way forward, yes? Okay, so I've got reach. He's got to get through all of this before he can have any of this. So this is safer. So in this particular situation, it's okay for this to be in this position because I've created a situation where before he can get to that, I can change it if it's in danger. Okay. Now these, when I'm in here, so now we get into a classic fencing pose, this here. Okay, way shoulders open, long in this way. Well, what have I done? Completely disengaged this arm. It's out of the loop. Even if I try to come with it here, because of how far this is twisted and because of how long this is, I'm going to lose my balance before this is actually in a range that's worth something. Okay, but if I'm at a long range, it doesn't matter so much because I've taken the opportunity to say, I only care about this because I'm keeping you over there. Two hands becomes way more important when we're closer. Elbows and knees come way more important when we're really close. Okay? But if I'm far away, especially if I have a weapon, then I can keep him back with that weapon and he's not able to do anything about this. This is where I'm vulnerable, but I've kept it behind the weapon. If he bypasses this and gets to the side, then I can change. Because knowing where my vulnerability in my stance is lets me know when I need to do something about it. So as soon as he came in through here, I knew that this was no longer safe because he could come through and take this out, so I turned. Okay, and now he's going this way, so suddenly this leg is not nearly in danger because I put him over here. Obviously this is in the case of one person. If I've got multiple people, I've got to think about that. But that all comes back to recognizing where you're vulnerable and what these options are. So if I'm in here, you know, there's always keep this here. Well, and then, but if I'm back here, well, this is not a good position if I need both hands, but it's perfectly a-okay if I'm only using one hand, right? It's keeping it completely out of the cut zone. It's helping me align my body.
It's counterbalance.
It's counterbalance and it's safe. I've kept it safe by moving it away. But if he gets close enough and I need it, it's a terrible place to put it. Okay. Questions on any of that? You know, it's just kind of some what I've been thinking about when it comes to stances and their role. You had kind of questions on movement and that kind of stuff last Friday, and that got me kind of thinking about the role stances play. Movement can be done in a full motion, but it can also be done in a half motion. Because maybe I cannot go all the way through here. So maybe I need to come in, but I need to switch back into something stable. So I move a little bit here and I balance it out here. Okay, I don't always have to move only forward or only backwards. I have two legs that can move two directions. Okay. We're gonna do some footwork drills now. Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you. Because the other thing that's important is balance and directionality.
I have a question. I'm not sure how to phrase it.
Sure.
So we spoke a little bit about if you are in, say, a fencing stance, if you have a weapon, you're keeping your body behind that weapon. And there's a lot that goes, I think mentally, when you have a weapon, you want that weapon out. And that's generally where you see it. But what about switching in from, you know, having a weapon to using, say, your offhand without a weapon, or moving it? How do you make that distinction between when to use a weapon, how to?
Immediate response to that is it's going to come down to the weapon. So if I have, this makes a lot of sense if I have a long weapon. Okay, and I'm glad that you said that, because in the case of when we work machetes and we work edge weapons, okay, you see a lot of these motions here, right? That's bad, don't do that. Okay, why? Because the further I reach, the more I've exposed this and made it easier for you to get to. So I need to be in here, keeping this in and safe. So if I have a knife, you're gonna be able to be closer to me, but I don't wanna do this so that you've got that. That's bad for me. And so in that case, if I've got something shorter that I'm keeping in tighter, then I'm more likely to engage this hand. If I'm working really long range with a long weapon and you get in on that, keep in mind at any given point, it may be better to lose the weapon. If I have, especially considering fencing, if I have a rapier, very valid weapon, on a straight line, but very functional in doing damage. But if you're in here, there's not a lot of ways that I can hurt you with that. Even with the pummel, there's not a lot that I can do that I can't do without it. But meanwhile, it's tying me up and making it more difficult to move. So getting rid of that in that situation, if you can close that distance, it makes more sense for me to get rid of it and move on. Switch to a shorter weapon or switch to no weapon at all, so that I can start working in the fact that you've changed the situation for me, which might have also changed the weapon I've got in play. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Same thing goes for leaning, okay? In any case, I want to be up as much as possible, with few exceptions. Okay, even when I'm coming back, or I'm back here, or back here, I want to be able to keep my face out of this area, because this is dangerous, and makes it easier for you to hurt me where I still have not. I can hit you to right here, and I can still hit you to right there. But you have to hit to here, and you have to hit to here. So it doesn't make any sense for me to put my head here. It's also harder for me to move. If I do this, all of my weight comes forward. So whereas my weight was here, if I do this, now my weight's out here. So to move in another direction, I'm gonna not only have to move my feet, I'm gonna have to redirect my whole weight. If I'm here, I can move mostly my feet to redirect my weight. Here I've gotta do this. If I am to turn, people have figured it out, especially when you're doing forms. If you come out and you turn this way, you are likely to lose your balance right in here because you just swung your weight into your third leg and you start to fall. So it's not good for actually mobility and balance to send that weight out away from you. But when I'm in a long position, so let's talk about exceptions. Exceptions are when I know that you're not going to be able to get to this. So Matt, I'll borrow you again. We've already done it, but I'll show it again. Is one good position is if I am with a long left arm. Then I can lean, because he's got to deal with all of this before he can get to this. And in the meantime, I can bring this back. Okay? But the other place this is useful is he comes in to hit, and I come in through here. I'm leaning, but what I've really done is gotten the majority of my mass out of his cut zone. So it's not easy for him to do something about it. Okay? So those are kind of the primary two. Either I'm far enough away that I can lean without being vulnerable, or I'm far enough in that I can lean without being vulnerable. Do you have another question?
I did. I was thinking about redirecting. So, this weight's forward here. Could also be redirecting that and redistributing that, as far as that's concerned.
And so what did you just do?
Here.
As soon as you did that, what did you do? You dropped this.
That's true. That's true.
So you didn't stay out here, you actually pulled this in. So where's my head? When I came down here, my balance is still in the center. If I move out like this, I lose my balance. If I move in through my center, I don't.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm leaving this wide, and I'm more rooted. As I come down, especially while I'm dropping my weight, it's a hell of a lot harder for me to switch and move because I just pulled my weight into this space. So I need this space for a minute, and then I'll be able to do something. But for a moment, I need to.
Think of it like that. That's interesting.
What is interesting is there's a lot of times where you don't realize that you've actually changed stance and function of your movement in transition, and you didn't notice. You might go through 4 stances in one motion just because of what it's doing for you, but you're not thinking about it because you're thinking about what it's doing. So if you want to emphasize or create better technique, then you do think about it. You do it, then you think about that motion, and you think about how you can accentuate that. So if I'm in here and I move this way, and I'm moving, and that's maybe good, but maybe I think, but I could use my hips to really get down here, and then come in through here, and then I can go back and do it again with conscious thought of my movement. Do it again and see if it made a difference on my power, my balance, or my stability, and then try it again. And that's how you take technique to the next level, is learning how to take advantage of each individual component of the movement.
Just realizing that take it to the next level.
Then it's really important because then you've got to train it, because you can't do that combatively. You've got to then put that knowledge that you just gained by taking it apart, now you got to put it together enough times that it just happens when you need it, which is where repetition comes in. Do you guys know?
Seems like the only time you're reading is when you're within your own line.
True. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what Gabe just said is that the only time that I'm leaning is when I'm in my own line. And that's right, there are very few cases that I'm going to, and I probably don't want to do it in any cases, where I'm leaning off of my line, right? I need to do something to, even if I'm going to lean to here, then I better move something into that line to take advantage of the fact that, or at least compensate for the fact that I just kicked my balance to this position. If I'm not on this line, then I will lose balance. Especially if I'm perpendicular to the line, I will definitely go down. And that's an advantage for someone else. And maybe I give it to you just because I fell down. And you didn't have to do anything.
Guide you then moving forward, you kind of do one lean in a little bit more with your center, but yeah, if you do that.
Anything with extreme compensation can come with a great disadvantage if it doesn't land. So even if I go, okay, well where I'm going to go is I'm going to explode forward, shoulder check here. Well, that's great if I hit something.
Right.
If he moves, if he recognizes that motion and moves, then that could get really bad for me really quick, because now I've set this way out, and if he's right here now, I'm toast. Okay? Same thing when you see people do high kicks and especially jumping kicks. They have their uses, and if you can deploy them well, they work really well. If you have trained to see them, you know, so this guy can kick. Okay. So on jumping front kick, straight forward, bop, good. Okay, now move back, and so now we're across the ring. We're gonna go back to the fights a month ago or so ago. A guy runs right in, comes right through, takes this guy out. Boom, you know, bam, lands that kick, takes him out. Awesome. He didn't see it coming. By the time he got done going, what the? He had a foot in his face. But what happens when he comes in? He commits to that kick, and I'm over here. Okay, or I'm taking that leg. Because there's not a lot of things that he can do to do anything about it until his feet touch the ground. But I got to do so. When he comes in like that, if I come in through here, toast, bad news. Okay, if he does it, do it again. Okay, he comes through, and I'm burying this up while his body's coming down. He just accelerated what I'm doing with this. Okay, so it's really easy for me to get off of that line, which means if I do those things, if I do those things, then it's really easy for him to get off that line and do something to me. So the more extreme, so we go from a kick to an extended kick to a jumping kick. I've made that motion more extreme. The more extreme that motion becomes, the easier it is for somebody to take away its ability. It will work better if it lands, but I've lowered the success rate of it landing.
And a lot of those exact principles you just talked about there, they don't apply just to fighting. They apply to lots of physically dangerous situations in general. Gabe knows this from climbing. You never let your center mass get too far away from the wall. Or
Probably same thing in your boats.
Kayaking.
You're going too far to the side.
Especially anytime you're dealing with a rescue situation where gravity is a significant factor, or ice or anything like that. You never ever want to let your center mass get too far out. Otherwise, you're putting yourself and others around you at risk too. So
The way that I like to think about it is all of this is important
live.
both martially and essentially.
Right. That's fine.
In any case, and you're absolutely right, in any case, you know, how do we fall downstairs? Something in that chain broke, and we go down the stairs. How do I slip on the ice? Something in that chain broke, I slip on the ice. You know, how do I do any of the things that end up in some kind of injury, and especially in the case of losing balance, something in that chain broke. And that is what did that. So the better I am in control of that chain, the less likely those sort of things are going to happen.
Basically balancing gravity.
Yep. Yep. And gravity can be your friend or it can be your enemy. It doesn't care. Okay. Anything else? Comments, questions? Okay. Good. So everybody up. Actually, okay. So the drill is going to be, so we've got movements. This is not mandatory, but it sure as hell makes a difference. Okay. Anytime I move, be it usa kalakan, duha kalakan, okay, even V kalakan. V is actually starting to apply what I'm talking about. But anytime I move forward or back, if I move on this track, then I have to put this foot down. Okay? And for a moment, I am falling because I have no balance, because I've set my weight out here, and it's going. Okay? Anytime I move, again, you can do a lot of stuff without ever thinking about this, but it's really useful, is anytime I move, if I can come into my center, I can make sure that if I need to suddenly redirect, I've got that option. If I need to hold my place, I've got that option. But it also means if I come forward, I can come forward this way with decent ability. Okay, I can generate a decent amount. But if I come forward through my center, I have more, because I'm basing that off of, right now when I go forward, I'm basing my momentum off of pushing. And when I push, because my weight's over here, I'm not pushing forward, I'm actually pushing against this space, because my weight's partially over here. So when I push forward, I have to compensate for that. But if I've already compensated by coming to my center, then I can push any way I need to with full mobility and full acceleration, because I'm accelerating from that one point, 100%, not 90, not 80, 100% from that space. Okay. So the drill is just going to be moving. We're going to work lima kalakang, and instead of working this, we're just going to make sure that we're coming to this center point first. Okay, and at first we're just making sure, and note that I'm not walking straight, I'm actually kind of kicking off this way, kicking off this way. This is useful combatively to get out of the way, to change my angle, but it's also just getting used to where is my momentum going, and can I harness that acceleration off of that back leg.
Just a quick question on nuance of that. I notice when you're coming forward with that forward step, that you're planting with the heel first. Is that what you want for this drill, or is it?
Where I'm coming here.
Yeah. Or is that just?
So this
however
is-
you're comfortable?
This is something that really what it comes down to is, if you want to take the most advantage of your balance into old age, learn to step with your heel first. Because when I start to trip, my foot can roll down. If I start to trip here, my knee has to go down. Okay, I don't have anything left to catch me. So the more I can move heel first, the more I can roll to compensate and do something with this. Even if I start to miss that stair, half of my foot is floating above the stair. But if I went toe first, then half of my foot is underneath that stair and I'm gonna fall down. Okay, so the more you land heel first and roll out, the better your balance is. Which is why, in particular, Tai Chi is really good, especially for the elderlies, because it forces, they emphasize that motion and rolling out. And then as people get used to doing that, they start falling less because they're able to compensate for loss of balance. So it's not required. You know, when I move in karate, I may move this way. But if I were to suddenly get stuck, and I've had that happen, if the floor is uneven, you're sliding in through here, and you suddenly hit something, you're going. Versus if I went this way. But there are other reasons, I'm not going into them right now, but there are other reasons for leading with the ball of the foot, especially in these C-step motions.
A lot of it's in darkness.
Darkness, absolutely. Yes, being able to sense. The other thing is this motion, the reason this is working is because I'm floating barely above, which means I'm maintaining contact and recognizing. And so as soon as that starts to go, I don't have the question of what's under my foot, I'm about to fall. I know what's under my foot and I can put my foot down. Okay? But it also keeps my foot light and I can do sweeps and foot sweeps and things like that from that position. Okay, so going back to this, when I move, for right now I want to move with my hips moving along the same line as my new direction. Okay? Later you'll learn how to move that foot off on that line with that same intent, but keeping your hips square so that in this new space you are still even. Okay? But right now I don't want to work on that, I want to work this way. Okay? So everybody down, we've got room for 4 people to do it once, so let's do sets of 4 moving down.